This is a continuation video of two other videos where in the first video we set up a super basic HUD UI so that we would display it on the first person player. In the second video, we hooked up a score integer variable from the first person player to that HUD UI so that it would display what the score the player has. In this video, we're going to set up a coin so that when you collect the coin, it updates the UI to show that the coin has been collected. I did do a little bit of pre-work before this video, just so that you are aware of that. I made a real quick material of gold so that the coin I created can look a little bit fancier. And I did go ahead and find a sound effect so that if we play it, it'll play when the coin gets picked up. Just a little extra juice for our coin to make it feel a little bit nicer, and to also signal to the user that you did pick up a coin. It helps. So we're going to do this underneath blueprints. I made a new blueprints folder, and we're going to set this up as an actor blueprint. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to blueprint class, and I'm going to choose actor. Most of the time when you're doing stuff in Unreal and you need to make blueprints and have objects do things, you're going to be using the actor blueprint. So don't be confused by the name. It doesn't mean like a player or like a person in the game. This is just a thing that has a blueprint attached to it. So anything like that, it's just the actor blueprint. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to call it BP coin. Oops, that's fine. BP coin. Let me rename that real quick. Sorry. BP coin. And we're going to double click it and go into the editor for this. So very similar to the widget, it does have a few different areas that we can look at. The viewport is like the 3D viewport of how this is set up. And then we have the event graph, which is where we would be doing any kind of blueprinting for this. So first of all, let's just set the coin up in here. You could import your own 3D model for this, and if you did, you would just drag and drop it into here. I'm going to just add a cylinder to visualize the coin, and I'm going to just do a few quick changes to this so that it looks a little bit closer to a coin. So it would be better if you set the to 0.5 maybe. It would be better if you did bring in like your own assets, or at least something that looks a little bit nicer than just a cylinder. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to utilize this. This will be fun for what we're doing. And this is also where I'm going to put on my gold material like that. So very simple. I could also rename this, since it's called cylinder, I could call it like coin mesh or something to that effect, just so I know that that's what that is. It's not, cylinder isn't very descriptive. So it can be a little bit hard to, once we're deep into something, understand what that means. So it would be nice to make this a little more dynamic than just a coin kind of sitting in space. Generally in games, you want to make things that you can interact with more dynamic. One of the ways that we could easily do this would be to make this coin rotate. Sometimes you might also see things bob up and down, or like a little particle effect, but making it an actual dynamic object rather than a static object will just make this feel like something that you should be able to do something with. So let's go over to that event graph. And we're just going to do this in the event tick so that every frame, the coin is going to just rotate just a little bit. So I'm going to pull off of here, and I'm going to add a node called add relative rotation. And it is, the target is that coin mesh, so we do know that it is trying to hook it up correctly. Specifically, we do want to change, and I'm going to, if you can't see all of them, like we kind of want to be able to access, we don't want rotating on all the axes. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say split struck pin so that we can access just the Z rotation because we only want it to spin. We don't want it to wobble all around. Maybe you do for something else like a health pill or something, but for us, we just want it to spin on the Z. So one of the ways we're going to do this, we're going to set up a variable for this so that we can adjust that speed if we need to. So under variables, I'm going to go ahead and add one called speed. And for this, it can be a float. There's nothing wrong with having it have decimals, but for the, let's hit compile real quick. And I'm just going to set that default value to 100. This you could always tweak later if you wanted it to spin faster or slower. You would just change the speed variable over here. I'm going to drag and drop it into the event graph. We're going to say get speed because we want to be able to look at that value. And we want to, we actually want to multiply it by the delta seconds. It tends to work a little bit better this way that it is not just rotating, at a specific thing. It will like continuously rotate. So I'm going to pull off of delta seconds. I'm going to look for multiply right here, operators multiply. And we're going to hook in the speed so that we are going to make it rotate based on that. And we're going to pull this now into the delta rotation. And that should be it for making this spin. So let's compile and save. And we can very quickly just test this. I'm going to drop in my coin and hit play. And we can see my score is still working and we do have a nice rotating coin. Can't do anything with it yet. It's just kind of floating around. So the next step is going to be to actually hook up the event where we touch it. It gives us a score. It disappears, all while playing a nice little sound effect at the same time. So let's go back to our blueprint for this coin. And we're going to go back to the viewport because what we need to have happen is we need to set up something so that if the player touches or gets close to the coin, it initializes that pickup. For Unity, if you've done Unity, this would be a on trigger enter event. And we're going to be doing the same thing over here in Unreal. Same kind of interaction. So we do have to set up that trigger volume. So I'm going to go over here and hit add. And I'm going to search for trigger. I'm sorry, not trigger. It is, oh, hold on. It's a collider. Sorry about that. So I start typing COLL for collision. We have a choice between the box collision, capsule collision, sphere collision. Probably a sphere collision would work fine for this. We do want to make sure that this is positioned well. Probably make it bigger than the coin. Usually we can just adjust that radius. It would happen not, right before you touch it. So having it kind of floating in it, but also a little bit bigger would work really well. We do need an on trigger enter event. And the nice thing about this is once we have this kind of set up where we want it to be, if we scroll all the way down underneath events, we can do an on component begin overlap, which means that when something touches it, something is going to happen. So we're just going to hit the plus for that. And it very nicely sets up our event for us on the event graph. So if you do need to go back to viewport, that's just over there, but it did just create it for us. There's our rotation one so that we can just build it right off of here. We do specifically want to make sure that one, it only happens on our player character touches it. Like if you had like bullets from a gun, We don't want it to accidentally also trigger these, or something else like an enemy touching it. We don't want that to trigger either. We do also need to make sure that we are getting our first person character so that we can update that score it has. And then when that score updates, remember that the score does also talk to our UI. So it's kind of like a nice chain of who talks to who, updating each other. So I'm going to pull off of here, and we need to cast to BP underscore first person character. If you are using like the third person or some other kind of character, it will be something else. We also want to make sure that we hook the other actor into this. So it says, hey, something touched us. Is it the player? It is? Okay, cool. We'll keep going with that. Otherwise, if something else touches it, this won't continue on. So what we want to have happen is we want to make sure that we are setting the score on that character to be a new score, but we can't do that until we know what the current score is. So we're going to pull off of this, and we're going to say get score, because that's that variable we created a while ago so that we can see what the current score is. But we do also need to set the score so that we can update it with the new score of touching the coin. We do want to make sure that this does fire, so we do need to continue on that line so that it will set it. And we just have to tell it now, what do we want to set it to? We need to first get that score. And then we need to add how much we want that coin to be. So we're going to do an add node. And, you know, if we wanted to, we could make a variable of this. Like if you did want to do like an integer, so you can change this on the fly, you could, like a little bit easier. But for the sake of time, we are just going to set this to 50 so that each coin we get, we update our score by 50 points. So we're going to take the current score, that's our get score, add 50 to it, and then we're going to set the score now back to that. The last thing we want to have happen, what happens usually when you touch a coin, we destroy it. So we're going to do a destroy actor off of that as our last event. We do want to make sure that the target is the self, because that means the coin will destroy itself. So now we have kind of like this nice long chain of, we have our on component begin overlap. Is it the player? Yes. Okay. Look at the player, grab its score. Add 50 to that score and change the player's score to that and destroy itself. While that happens, from our previous video, remember that your we have the other blueprints so that the widget is also looking at that player so that the score will then update on the player. So let's save and compile, and let's see how this works. I'm gonna hit play. I'm gonna walk down. Currently have a score of 0. We touch it and we have a score of 50 and the coin disappeared. So the last thing I do want to show you is how to add that sound effect to it. It's just a nice little flourish at the end of it. So we are going to just add in before we destroy it, because if we put it on after we destroy it, the actor will destroy itself and never actually play. So we're going to do a play sound at location, because we do want to play it at the sound at the location of the coin. What sound are we going to play? I just grabbed this off of, I believe, Pixabay. It's just a free little sound effect. We want to play that sound. So we're going to hook this in. And we do need to tell it where we're going to play it. So we do want to play it at the coin location. So we're just going to pull off of location and do a get actor location. And the self, because it's the coin. We want it to play at the coin. So we're going to compile and save that. Close that and hit play. So now we should be able to touch it and get a little coin noise. We can now also just duplicate this coin around so that we can pick up multiple coins and we can watch that score update. So 50, 100, 150. There we go. We've set up our UI. We are keeping score on the first person player, and we have a coin that will update that score through the first person player to our UI. Hopefully you've had some fun with this and you can think of other ways to work with this and alter it and make it even better.